Hello friends, welcome to the lecture on macroeconomics concepts and scope. Macroeconomics as a concept has now been well established. The problem of economy at a large area addressed through this discipline. Employment, saving, investment and other functions governing the cycle of economic growth are considered and studied by this discipline. The study of macroeconomics has great importance from the view of broad economic planning and building a model of development. Today, macroeconomics occupies a vital space in the study of economics. Planners, policymakers as well as researchers in the field of economics have to have a thorough understanding of various economic concepts. In this lecture, we are discussing some important facets of macroeconomics and the development of macroeconomic policies as well as typologies of macroeconomic disciplines. Let us discuss about macroeconomic system. Various aspects of macroeconomic system is explained with the help of a diagram. The principal objective of macroeconomics is to formulate policies that help the system of governance in acquisition and distribution of wealth. On one side, monetary and fiscal policies help the government to collect revenue and maintain appropriate balance between investment, saving and consumption. On the other hand, it helps the government to create means of employment, generate wealth and distribute amongst different stakeholders in equitable and appropriate manner. Thus, macroeconomics is a discipline of knowledge that helps in policy formulation, effective economic governance and formulation of policies regarding employment, resource deployment as well as formulation and channelization of capital. Moving ahead with nature of macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is a study of aggregates. Macroeconomics is the study of aggregates or averages that covers the entire economy as one single entity. These aggregates include factors such as total employment. It means developing appropriate policies that will help in generating meaningful employment by developing resources in an effective manner. National income, it is the total value of all goods and services produced in a country during a year. Total investment is the amount of financial resources that a person or entity can put into a project. Aggregate supply is the total supply of final goods and services that firms in an economy plan on selling during a given period. Aggregate demand is the total demand for goods and services in an economy at a given point of time. In other words, macroeconomics examines the interrelationship among various aggregates. Macroeconomic principles help to study the determinants of these aggregates. It helps to identify the factors that cause fluctuations in them. Another name of macroeconomics is the theory of income and employment. Macroeconomics is also known as income analysis. The study of macroeconomics is primarily concerned with problems, causes and determinants of unemployment, economic fluctuations, inflation or deflation, international trade and economic growth. In the sphere of business cycles, it concerns itself with the effect of investment on total output, total income and aggregate employment. In the monetary sphere, it studies the effect of total quantity of money on the general price level. In international trade, macroeconomics tackles the problems of balance of payments. Foreign aid falls within the purview of macroeconomic analysis. Macroeconomic theory studies the problems of determination of the total national income and reasons of its fluctuation. It also studies the factors that hinder the process of economic growth and development. Moving ahead to scope and importance of macroeconomics. The theoretical and practical importance of macroeconomics is explained with the help of certain points. The first, to understand the working of the economy. Second, in economic policies. Third, for understanding the behavior of individual units. Moving ahead to the explanation, to understand the working of the economy. The study of macroeconomic variables is very important for understanding the actual working of the economy. The problems faced by the economy are connected with the behavior of aggregate income, aggregate output, employment and the general level of prices in the economy. All these variables are measured statistically, thereby helping to analyze the effects on the functioning of the economy. According to Timbergen, macroeconomic concepts help in making the elimination process understandable and transparent. For instance, one may not be willing to agree on the best method of measuring different price level, but the general price level is very helpful in understanding the economy. Second, in economic policies, macroeconomics is very useful from the point of view of economic policy. The underdeveloped economies face a lot of national problems. These problems include overpopulation, inflation, balance of payment, etc. The main responsibility of the government in these countries is to regulate and control overpopulation, general prices, general volume of trade, etc. Timbergen says working with macroeconomic concepts is a bare necessity in order to contribute to the solution of the great problems of our times. It is not possible for the government to solve these problems by analyzing individual behavior. Let us now understand the use of macroeconomic study for providing solution for complex economic problems. First, in the general unemployment, the general level of employment in a country is dependent on the effective demand, which in turn depends on aggregate demand and supply functions. Unemployment is therefore caused by the deficiency of effective demand. In order to remove unemployment, effective demand should be boosted by increasing total investment, total output, total income and total consumption. Thus, macroeconomics plays a significant role in studying general unemployment. Second, in national income, macroeconomic study is vital for evaluating the overall economic performance in terms of national income. With the Great Depression of 1930s, it became important to analyze the reasons of general overproduction and unemployment. This paved way for the construction of the data on national income. This helps in forecasting the economic activity and understanding the income distribution among different sections of the society. Third, in economic growth, the study in macroeconomics also includes economic growth. It is on the basis of macroeconomics that the resources and capabilities of an economy are evaluated. Plans in order to increase national income, output, and employment are developed and implemented in order to increase economic development of the economy. Fourth, in monetary problems, the monetary problems can be better analyzed and understood properly in terms of macroeconomics. The frequent changes in the value of money, inflation or deflation affects the economy adversely. They can be overcome by adopting proper monetary, fiscal and direct control measures for the whole economy. Fifth, in business cycles, macroeconomics as an approach to economic problems gained importance after the Great Depression. Thus, its importance lies in analyzing the reasons of economic fluctuation and in providing solutions for the same. For understanding the behavior of individual units, the study of macroeconomics is very important for understanding of the behavior of individual units. The aggregate demand in the economy is dependent on the demand for individual goods and services. Unless and until the reasons of decline in the total demand are analyzed, it is not easy to understand the reasons for the fall in the demand of individual units. Whereas, the causes for increase in the cost of particular firm cannot be understood without knowing the average cost conditions of the entire economy. Therefore, it is not possible to study individual units without macroeconomics. Moving ahead now to macro theories. The theories in macroeconomics provide explanation to the relationship between the causation of different macroeconomic variables and issues relating to the aggregate economic behavior and other problems related with it. Macroeconomic theories differ from microeconomic theories, wherein the former deals with aggregates and the latter deals with the individual units. The different macroeconomic theories include theory of income and employment, theories of trade cycle, which is pure monetary theory of trade cycle, monetary overinvestment theory, non-monetary overinvestment theory. Under consumption theory, we have psychological theory, innovation theory, Keynes marginal efficiency theory, Hicks theory of trade cycle. The next important theory is theory of economic growth, for example, theory of big push. Similarly, theories of inflation, for example, Phillips curve. Theory of fiscal policy, for example, theory of balanced budget. Next, theory of monetary policy, for example, quantity theory of money. Moving ahead, we will discuss macroeconomic policies now. As rightly said by Professor Dernberg, macroeconomics is first and foremost a policy science. Therefore, it can be said that macroeconomics is a policy oriented subject. It includes many policies of macro nature in order to solve many issues and problems. These policies are used to fulfill certain macroeconomic goals like price stability, economic stability, eradicating poverty, etc. The different macroeconomic policies include monetary policy, fiscal policy, income policy, trade policy, industrial policy, import export policy, banking policy, planning policy. Now, let us move ahead to types of macroeconomics. The macroeconomic theory is classified into static macroeconomics, comparative static macroeconomics and dynamic macroeconomics. Types of macroeconomics are explained with the help of a diagram. We can now see at length the three variants of macroeconomics. First, static macroeconomics. As the word rightly states, static. means in the state of rest. If you take the example of a table placed in a room or a book placed on the table, etc., they are all in the state of rest, but that is not the case of the economy. In an economy, people are continuously engaged in economic activities without changing the size of the economy. The static model of macroeconomics assumes that there is no change in the size of the economy or output or prices of employment. It studies certain aggregate relations in the stationary state, but fails to throw light on the process by which the equilibrium is reached in the economy. It deals with the final equilibrium of the economy at a certain point of time. This method of macroeconomics gives a still picture of the economy at a particular point of time. Second is comparative static macroeconomics. The type is a comparative study of different economic conditions at two equilibrium positions at two different points of time. The macro variables like total consumption, total investment and total income keep changing in the economy with passage of time, because of which the economy reaches different levels of equilibrium at different points of time. Therefore, this method of comparative macroeconomic statics covers a comparative study of different equilibrium levels attained by the economy. The drawback of this method is that it does not study in detail the process of adjustment by the economy, that is the shift from one equilibrium level to another equilibrium level. In a nutshell, it can be said that this type of macroeconomics only presents a still picture of various levels of equilibrium reached by the economy. Moving ahead to the third, that is dynamic macroeconomics. This method has been recently developed by Frisch, D.H. Robertson and M. Kellage. Similarly, Timbergen and P. A. Samuelson. This method is defined as the complete and comprehensive method of economic analysis. It analyzes how the equilibrium level in the economy is achieved with the consequent changes in the macro variables and the aggregates. Here, the macroeconomic conditions are studied under the changing or dynamic condition. It analyzes the actions and interaction between the forces of change. Let us now try and understand certain limitations of macroeconomics. There are many limitations of macroeconomics analysis, which can be explained with the help of a diagram. The first one is fallacy of composition. Macroeconomic analysis involves the fallacy of composition, that is, aggregate behavior of the economy is summation of all individual activities. But the fact is that what holds true for the individuals need not necessarily hold true for the whole economy. For example, if the total savings in the economy increases, they may result in depression if they are not invested, and if an individual depositor withdraws his deposit from the bank, there exists no danger. But if all the depositors start withdrawing the money simultaneously, there will be run on the banks and the banking system will be very badly affected. Second, to regard the aggregates as homogeneous. The main limitation in macro analysis is that it regards the aggregates as homogeneous without taking into account their internal composition and structure. For example, the average wage in a country is the summation of all wages in all occupations, that is, wage of clerks, typists, teachers, nurses, etc. But the volume of total employment depends on the structure of wages than the average wage. If the wages of nurses rise, but that of typists falls, the average might remain unchanged. If the employment of nurses falls by a little and that of typists increases, the aggregate employment would increase. The third limitation is limitation of aggregate variables. The aggregate variables which outline the economic system may not be of much importance. For instance, the national income of a country is defined as total of all individual incomes. Any increase in the national income does not mean that the individual incomes have also increased. This increase in the national income may be due to increase in income of few rich people in the country. Professor Balding calls these three difficulties as macroeconomic paradoxes, which stands true when it is applied to a single individual, but not true when applied to the entire economic system. The fourth one is indiscriminate use of macroeconomics is misleading. An indiscriminate use of macroeconomics in studying the problems of the real world can be misleading. For example, if the measures needed to achieve full employment in the economy are used in order to curb structural unemployment in individual firms and industries, it would turn out to be of no use. Fifth difficulty is statistical and conceptual difficulties. The measurement of macroeconomic concepts includes a number of statistical and conceptual difficulties. These problems are associated to the aggregation of microeconomic variables. Aggregation is not difficult if the individual units are almost similar, but if the variables are dissimilar individual units, there are chances that the aggregation of these variables into one macroeconomic variable may be wrong. So, to conclude, we have studied how macroeconomic helps to understand various issues related with economic decisions taken by the governing agencies. It also highlights the importance of designing appropriate economic policies to address the problem of unemployment, setting out targets of unemployment and critical issues related with business cycles. Macroeconomics helps in addressing the issues related with designing appropriate monetary and fiscal policy, as well as of regulating issues related with consumption, saving and investment. Hence, we as a student of economics should study macroeconomics from different angles to learn about economic policies and models of economic development. Thank you.